Hey ladies, welcome to High Heels and Destiny. Today we have Nakia Calhoun on. Nakia Calhoun is the owner of the Royalty Avenue. I got that right? Okay,
Yes.
the Royal Avenue. I'm gonna give her the floor. I'm gonna allow her to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her business. I'm so glad to have you on, Nakia.
I'm happy. I'm so glad that you invited me to come on your platform.
So sweet. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your business, your financial service before we get started in your boutique.
Okay, awesome. I would love to.
Mhm.
One of the first businesses I have is Ambassadors Financial Services, which is a lot of people say jack of all trades
Mhm.
because I am a senior tax preparer. I've been doing taxes over for 20 years. I'm also a business consultant, a certified business consultant, where I help businesses get started, help them to process any paperwork for grants, loans, anything as far as dealing with their businesses. Also, I'm certified in assisting with personal credit and business credit, help you get established, getting you back on track, and having that knowledge and understanding of what you have to do so that you'll be able to no longer use your personal credit and just depend on your business credit. And I'm also a financial planner, certified financial planner,
Mhm.
and I help with you getting back on track with your finances and getting you disciplines and kind of helping you with knowing and understanding what's your wants and what's the need. Okay. And then Royalty Ad Boutique is like our fresh baby that me and my husband opened up the beginning of this year. I know, right? In the midst of all of this COVID-19, the pandemic. But on January the 4th was our grand opening, Royalty Ad Boutique, with the design to cater to unique people, unique styles that you'll never find anywhere else. You don't have to worry about going to a movie and somebody got on the same thing you got on. How crazy is that, right? So
Mhm.
we wanted to be able to not just have basic style. We wanted something unique trend that can even simplify for those that they go to church, they don't like to wear, dress suits, but they can be comfortable in who they are and their identity and their personality.
So where is your boutique located?
Royalty Ad Boutique is located in Mobile, Alabama, and we're in the Bel Air Mall. We're right by Belts.
Okay. So you guys, I love her boutique. Like it's modesty. So for my modesty women that looking to be sexy, modest at the same time, she got a mix of both. You want to worry about, the other stuff like if you looking going to like a convention and you still want to be classy but sexy, like that's exactly where her boutique cater to. It's like modesty, sexy, clean, classy, straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
So, what is your website for your boutique
Okay,
and your
our website.
financial? Hmm.
Okay, awesome. The website for the boutique is www.royaltyaveclothing.com. And the web address for the financial services company is www.ambassadors with an S financialservices.com.
Okay, awesome. So you guys, we're gonna jump right into it. I just wanted you guys just to kind of get a snippet of what she do, and when I bring ladies on, I like for you guys to kind of know what they do. Just in case you want to support them, there you go. We throw it out there. Now you have it. Nikhil, I reached out to her because I felt like she would be a great candidate. As you all know, that they're trying to focus on taking your pain into purpose. Like you don't have to be your pain. Your pain can be turned into purpose. And so Nikhil wanted to come on, well, I asked her to come on. Let me rephrase. I asked her to come on to share her story about domestic violence. You guys. So today's topic is going to be about domestic violence. Domestic violence is real, and we're gonna jump into it. She's gonna share her story about it. She's gonna tell you how she went through it, but she overcame it. Once again, it's about turning your pain into purpose. She's not in the same place that she was years ago, but she's a completely different, transformed person now. And so let's jump into it, Nikhil. What okay, domestic violence is something that it's like it's one of those things that you never used to hear about. Like it was something like that years ago. You may knew like maybe your mom or somebody was abused, but it was something never being spoke about. But it's like now as the years come on by, it's like in this new millennium, you're seeing more and more women that's losing their lives to domestic violence. What is your definition of domestic violence?
My definition of domestic violence is a form of physical or emotional abuse.
Mhm.
There can be several stages. Sometimes we are not aware when it does happen. We'll think that it's something innocent, but it's definitely an eye opener or a sign that you're in a relationship that can end up and progress into something very abusive. So when I think of domestic violence, I think of physical and emotional abuse in all forms. It can't get any simpler than that.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Did you come from a two-parent household? Um, did you have a relationship with your dad? And also, did you have a relationship with your dad?
Yes, I did come from a two-parent home,
Mhm.
which I know some say that's amazing. And so, how did you end up there? And I also had a great relationship with my father. I'm actually a daddy's girl. And so I didn't have anything against my father. I wasn't neglected, as a child because I didn't have my father in my life. None of that. I did come from a two-parent home where I had both parents there with me.
Okay. So have you ever, did you come from a household of domestic violence?
There were, as far as, and yes, I would say in some form as vocal. There were
Okay.
some vocal on both ends. On
Okay.
both ends, there were some vocal things, and there were some things that I did witness. So I did come out of an atmosphere where there was some domestic violence.
Okay. So, how old were you, Nakia, when well, let's go back a little bit. How many kids do you, at that time, before you got in that relationship, how many kids did you have at that time?
Before I got into that relationship, I had two girls at that time.
Two girls.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, okay, now around what age was you when you met the person that was?
I was I would say like between my early 20s, sort of
Mhm.
like in that mid-range. I would say like maybe 22, 23,
Mhm.
somewhere in that range is when I had met my domestic violence um, partner.
Okay. Okay. So let's go a little bit deeper because when you met, let's go on the journey of it. Okay, let's go back a little bit for the little bit that you do remember. How did it start off? Did you meet this guy and he was a charmer? Or did you see the signs before? Did he sweep you off your feet? Let's start from the beginning when you guys first met. What was that like?
Yes, and it was like in the I want to say 1990s, somewhere in the later 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
I had a female friend that she was actually living with me at the time because she was getting herself back together. And there were times that we would go out, we would hang out, we would do different things. Even though, I was like this, that I wouldn't do anything around my daughters. I made sure like they were somewhere with my mom, grandparents, whatever the case may be. So if I did decide to go out somewhere and my friend or something was with me, they wouldn't be home. So I met this guy through a friend of mine at that time. We were going out and he seemed to be a charmer. He seemed to know the right things to say. We both like doing the same things. We both like going out and having a good time. Conversation was good. Seemed to sweep you off your feet, unbelievable. Knew the right words to say. And so by that, I was charmed because I was already in a place of where I had already experienced a bad relationship, maybe about 6, 7 months before we had even met. And I agreed to go out with this guy. And so he charming, knew the right words to say, knew how to sweep you off your feet, make you feel so important, just all those great things. And it really moved me because when you're not healed, you tend to draw to those things that he's giving you this attention and he could be the one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you guys started dating or whatever. And so where did dating lead? Where did dating lead to? Did you guys eventually get married, have kids together? What was the next step after you guys started, dating more and things started to get more serious?
Once the dating, we did eventually get married because even through the dating, I did eventually meet his family. And one of the things, the reason why it was like, he made me feel like I was this person, and he doesn't do this with every woman. So I was like, I met his mom and his dad, you know, brothers, everybody. So that was like my children, my two daughters at the time, they met his family, and, you know, they really liked me, you know. So when you're a woman and a man introduces you to his family, it's a big thing. So after at that point, that's when the discussion about marriage was coming forth, and we both decided to get married. And so he did eventually end up becoming my husband.
Okay. And I know sometimes people always say, like, you know, before getting married, in that process or whatever, that there is some type of red flags where maybe that person, you can see some type of aggressiveness. It don't necessarily mean like they're abusive, but maybe their aggressiveness before, going, transitioning into marriage. Did you see like any type of red signs, whether his voice being raised or maybe a temper here and there? Did you see any red flags?
Actually, I did. You know, it started out like, if we were to go out, we were to go somewhere, and maybe we were headed back, or it appeared like someone may have been looking at me, or there was, you know, just something off the wall. He would get angry, you know, ready to go, and then on the way back, just going in. But again, because of what I came out of, I'm thinking like, okay, he really likes me, and, you know, this is a good thing, but, you know, not thinking that this could be a problem later on down the line, you know. And so, yeah.
And you know what? It's so good that you said that, because you know what? It's so many women, when they see that aggressiveness side toward in a man, they feel like, oh, he just really like me. He's very overprotective of me.
Yes.
He act this way because he care about me. And if he didn't care about me, then he wouldn't act this way. And I have heard that, and that be some red flags that women miss in the beginning, because they feel like, oh, he just really like me, and it could be as simple as, if you speak to somebody or something, and they may just be like, rah, and then you feel like, well, he's just doing it because he really care about me. He really, really love me. And I think those are the little small flags that we miss. And I feel like an alert is when you have to put yourself in a box to be around a person. Those are also two red flags, when you can't be your normal self. If you a happy going person and you speak and you bubbly, but if you out and you may see a guy that's a classmate or somebody you work with, you say, hey, and they act crazy. Those are some really, those are signs of red flags that people tend to miss.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because again, I'm thinking that, oh, this is innocent. He really loves me. He wouldn't do all this. Another guy looking at me. Look, he's just taking up for me. And it really wasn't that. It's just that was that side of anger that was being revealed. And because of where my heart wasn't completely healed, I'm thinking like, this is okay. This is normal.
And two, with domestic violence, there's a lot of control.
Yes.
A lot of control. So being in a relationship where you're being controlled. And I think that's another red flag where women look over and I have heard where they look over, well, okay, he controlling me. They look at it as another sign of being concerned, maybe he don't isolation control where, okay, he don't really want you around your friends or your family, or if you go, he constantly calling and stuff like that, or you got a time limit, how long you can be gone, and when you got to be back and that type of stuff. I think control too is another indication of red flags that women have to be watchful for in the beginning stages.
Yes, and with me at the time, I didn't have a vehicle. So most of my time, my form of experiencing control was at times being left at home, and he had the car and he may be gone for certain periods of weeks. I'm just being honest.
Let's go with it. Let's get it.
Or days, while, he's out there doing whatever he was doing, but, wouldn't want the same, thing to happen to him. And so there were times that, I was controlled in that manner by, because I didn't have a vehicle and I didn't have a way of getting back and forth. I was like put in a place of punishment, so to speak, because I couldn't get out. So if I did go somewhere and it was like right down the street or something of that nature. And he ended up coming to the house, then like everything went crazy. And so it's just like, I just rather would stay home instead of, like you said, walking on the eggshells, instead of going through all this argument and possibly him putting his hands on me.
At that, okay, I'm gonna pause on that. Okay, I'm gonna come back and ask that question. So, okay, let's get back to, okay, you done met this guy, he's a charmer. You see somewhere some little flags, but you know, women, we always give men the benefit of the doubt. We be like, oh, that's, you know, boo, boo, boo. You know, we look over those little red flags. So you met this guy, fantastic guy, you got a bad relationship, you guys have, you know, decided that you was gonna get married. How long after dating did you guys decide to marry?
It actually wasn't, to be honest, it actually wasn't long. I want to say it could have been about maybe 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
It really wasn't that long because, like I said, when he introduced me to his family, that was like putting the icing on the cake. Because because his family really did love us. So it was just like the icing on the cake. So he knew then, of course, that's what he wanted to get their approval, which I found out later, like, okay, she's a, you know, don't mess over. And they did tell him that, don't do her wrong. You know, she's a good one. You know, don't do anything crazy, which again, bling, I'm like, okay.
You know, because in my mind too, if somebody say that, I'm thinking maybe they thinking like, okay, you know how men just mess up a relationship doing stupid
just
stuff.
Treat her right.
So I'm just thinking it would be something like that. I was thinking like, quote unquote, he's psycho, run for your life. You know,
I wasn't thinking all of that. You know, like, oh, okay, they really see something, especially me, and you know, make sure you handle her right. That's what I'm thinking. Like, okay, not all this, like you said, psycho stuff, and you doing crazy stuff. No.
Okay, so you guys that got married, you guys have said I do, you know, and women, when we get married, we think we're going to live the lifetime story, you know, in love, the house, the picket fence. Okay, so now you just said I do. After you got married, when do things start? Well, matter of fact, let's go back. It started to change. Okay. It started changing before you guys got married. You started seeing the little small things. And what was those small things you started to see the little signs before leading up to the wedding?
Yes, there were things like, as far as him saying crazy things out of his mouth to me, being, you know, it was verbal. It started being verbal. Or he would go into these psycho tantrums. Like, I didn't understand it. Like, it was like once, and it's like this narcissistic type of thing where he tries to play the victim. He would try to play the victim as if somebody had did something to him, and that gave him every right to go in. So most of the time it was taken out on me because of what reason or whatever he just came out of. So those signs were there. I'm just thinking like, okay, maybe he just needs some healing because his dad wasn't in his life. You know, I'm thinking of all this stuff, trying to say, you know, it's going to be all right. I'm going to walk through, you know, with him through this. You know, I understand, but in all actuality, he was just really beginning to show me himself, and he started to share some things with me out of his past marriage that it still didn't even click then. Like, I'm thinking like maybe he's a new person. And so when he began to share the things that he did before, because he used to sell drugs before, he was used to a certain lifestyle, told me things that he did, you know, beat up people, all types of stuff, just rob people. So I'm thinking like, okay, this could be a changed person. He's trying to change, and it's hard for him. But again, you know, I'm still thinking like he's going to change. And he probably would be better once we get married. But that was not the case.
Okay, so after you guys said, you know, I do, you guys get settled in, how quickly do the domestic violence start?
It begins to, I would say the shift happened was when we moved from the place that I was living when we first met, and we moved into our own place together. And it started shifting then. The drinking started picking up. He started doing drugs, which I didn't quite see the signs with the drugs as of yet, but with the alcohol, Like if he couldn't get certain things, he would sometimes put me in a chokehold and push me down on the floor and saying, you know, I can kill you right here. You know, so I would be begging for my life. Don't do this in front of my children. Or he would literally, you know, hit me in my face, you know, like a slap or something like that. You know, you're not, you know, you're not going anywhere. He'll leave, take the car that I had. Like I said, wouldn't see him, would lie or, you know, say things like, you know, that I was his sister. Like I had filed police reports because of that. He would be going with my car. And so it was getting really crazy. As soon as we transitioned into our place together, the abuse was getting serious. It was getting serious. It was life-threatening now.
So after you guys got married, like how long do you kind of remember? Like, was it something started a few months? Was it something started immediately?
I would say I would give it like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, like it shifted. He showed me this great guy that loved my children and, you know, and loved us. And I'm going to, you know, do these great things. And then the moment we get in this housing, this location, things began to shift. And though that place was a horrible place for me, horrible place.
Okay. And so it's like, how do you begin to transition mentally, like, and emotionally, like, okay, this is a person you're in love with, you're in a bad relationship, you thinking like, okay, I'm doing the right thing, I'm trying to, you know, live a better life, you know, have a father for my kids, be married, do things the right way, and then it immediately start to shift. Do it start to break you down mentally? Did it start to break you down mentally and emotion right away, or did it start to break you down later on as time went on because you kept seeing the good in him?
Right. It started breaking me down later on when I realized that this was my reality. I had to make a decision. I was close to having a nervous breakdown. So I was at a place of reality where the doctors was actually getting ready to prescribe me pills because of how broken and things had occurred in my life, because you could suppress so much. Look, I was going to work with bruises on my face. I had to try to find a way to cover those bruises, or been up all night arguing, and still have to go to work, or looking a certain way. Sometimes I was so ashamed to go because I didn't want anyone looking at me. So it was times that, you know, I suppressed it so much, like, oh, I'm good, it's okay, that, you know, it was my reality now. And I felt like I put myself in this, and this is why I'm in this place right now.
So let me ask you this, Nakia, like when the domestic violence first started, and I don't think I asked you this, and you know, you start seeing the signs after you guys got married, did you like did you tell yourself like, okay, it's gonna get better? Maybe maybe if I just do this better, maybe he'll act right, or maybe if I don't do that, maybe he'll, do better. Did you find yourself saying those things to yourself?
Well, because again, I'm saying this, he was very narcissistic. So when he did things, it was like as if he was a victim. So it made me kind of like feel sorry for him. You get what I'm saying? Feeling sorry for him because he was getting angry. So of course, I don't want to do anything that would trigger, that moment, because I'm like, okay, he's been through this. He don't have his father. You start making all these excuses, and he's trying to do better and all this good stuff. But at the end of the day, not just saying it is what it is. And so, but yes, yeah.
Okay. So, you guys was going through the domestic violence. How did it begin to affect the kids?
Now, one of the things in the very beginning, he did not do it in front of my younger two children at the time, because sometimes they would go back and forth between my mom and my grandmother's house, like if I had to work and stuff like that. So there were times they didn't see. Now when I had my son, at the time when he was a baby, that's when it got to the place that he didn't care anymore. It was like he would do things in front of the children. So they were so little, they don't really remember that part. But my youngest son at the time, when he would have his episode, he would like cry. He would literally be like crying. So I would be pleading for my life, like, don't do this in front of my son. Don't do this in front of the kids. You know, you don't kill me this way. Because literally he would have me in a chokehold, literally saying he's going to take my life.
Okay. So like when these domestic violence episode would take place, what would prompt him to, like, would it be like maybe something made him angry? Would it be that drugs, like maybe needing a fix? And when you say drugs, what type of drugs? Do you mind sharing it?
No problem, no problem. So there were times he would get angry. Okay, so I did deal with a lot of infidelity in the marriage. Okay, I did deal with a lot of infidelity in the marriage. So there are times of course, there are times where maybe something may have not happened right with whatever was going on out there with whoever, and it would be taken out on me. Yes, he was on drugs. As far as I know, there was cocaine. Of course, marijuana, and there was possibly crack. There was just a lot of things that were going on around, in the 90s, 2000, era, that, I'm thinking that he's saying that he's selling, but in all actuality, he was using. And so if he would be gone for a period of times, my mind would be wondering, like, is he doing drugs or is he out there doing some things that he shouldn't be doing? And so if he couldn't get anything, probably couldn't get a fix, or something didn't go out right, he was angry, he always come back and take it out on me.
Okay. And so we're going through this. I remember me, you talked about it, like at some point it clicked in your mind and it was like, okay, enough is enough. And you decide that, okay, I gotta figure something out, because when women get in these situations, people always tell them, just leave, just leave. And just from knowing women and just hearing the stories of it, it's not always simple, like, to leave, because you have to prepare to leave,
Right.
money or whatever resources to be able to leave, And I think women, we have to be really mindful and show a little bit of sympathy when people is going through a domestic violence relationship and you like, girl, just leave. Because when you leave, you may leave and that may be your last time leave. That may be your life, So you really have to prepare. So when you got to that mind frame, you was like, you know what, I'm tired. I want to, be able to have a better life for me and my kids. You was at a place of like, okay, there's a possibility I may lose my life. At what point, when that clicked in your head, that you decided, like, I'm going to try to find a way out?
At that point, I remember my youngest son was born in 1999. And around 2000, I had started working. I remember this, I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and we were living in Birmingham, Alabama, and I had a job at Teletech, and it was dealing with internet. I was in customer service, and there was this recruiting center for the military. And so the thought came in my mind, if this man doesn't come back, I want to be able to have ample time to be able to prepare to start getting out of that place for safety, because it started getting worse, where I really didn't know if I was going to eventually live, that my children could possibly see their mother die in this man's hands. So I started, when I would go to work, I would go on my lunch break and I would start talking to the Army Recruiting Center about what all I need to do to sign up, help me, get everything on. I need to take the test. And so I told him that I wanted to do it before when I got out of high school, but I had my oldest daughter at a young age, so I couldn't go. And so now this is going to be my way of escape. So I was making preparations to join the military. And once I got out of basic training, was to make sure that I had a place for me and my children to go once I started transitioning, and leave him with everything that was at that place. I didn't want anything.
Okay, so I want to take it back a little bit, because I skipped a little piece before we jump into how did you transition. We're gonna go back to what Resurrection Sunday means to you. What happened the day of Resurrection Sunday, the day that you almost lost your life? Let's go into that. You had been experiencing abuse, And this one particular time, let's go into details as to what happened on that day.
Yes, and I did express that to you. Resurrection Day is always sentimental for me, because this is the day that literally my life was resurrected. I was given the ability to live here on the earth, without my kids having to be taken away and go to a foster home or live a life of not, without their mom. But this was after I had been stationed in Germany. That means I completed basic training, AIT, my job school, all of that. So now I'm in my actual duty station, which was in Germany, Mannheim, Germany. And I wanted to come back home because now I was going to prepare to bring my kids back once I got through with everything. And I wanted to be home with my family during the time for Easter to do some time. I didn't have any time. So at that time, my platoon sergeant said I could go, but I would have to do some time at the recruiting station in Birmingham, Alabama, which I was fine with that. So I'll be able to see my family. And so on this particular day, the day before Resurrection Day, my husband at that time had called me and asked if I could pick him up to take him to his cousin's house. I was already kind of nervous about it because I was like, I don't know. I just really don't have time for this. Don't be doing all this stupid stuff. That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna drop you off and that's it, since I gotta take the kids to practice to do their speeches and everything. So he was like, that's cool, that's fine. So I go to pick him up, which is the day before resurrection, with the kids in the car, they're in the back seat, and he gets in drunk, high, begins to talk crazy. Don't you know I do this to you? And I'm like, look, we're not gonna do this. We're not about to go here. This is crazy. This don't make any sense. I want to drop you off. The kids, don't do this in front of the kids. We got to actually take them to rehearsal for Easter Sunday, for Resurrection Day. So he said, he calmed down. He said, well, we stopped at the church first. And then they changed the time of the rehearsal. And so I said, well, I could just go ahead and drop you off at your, no, he said, go ahead and drop me off at my cousin's house, which was like literally probably two or three streets down from the church. And so I agreed to do that. The moment I parked in front of his cousin's house, he yanked that stick into park and began to beat me in my face in front of my children. I literally thought that my life was over. I made a bad decision. He beat me to the place of where there was knots all over my face. The cousin tried to come out and pull him apart, trying to get in. It was hard. I was still in my seatbelt. So I'm trying to get out. There was no way. He kept saying he was going to kill me. My children was trying, little kids, they're in the back. They're trying to, as much as they can. They feel helpless because they're looking at this man is beating, that we call a father, is beating my mom. And we don't know what to do. And so the continual beating, at one point I'm thinking like, I can get out of this. I was still pinned down. He began to beat me in my face again. And my daughter, my youngest daughter, at the time, she was trying to unlock the door because the doors were locked. So we were all still in the car. We couldn't get out. And so at this point where he was getting ready to pull out a knife to slit my throat, my youngest daughter was able to get out the car. But at that moment, before he was getting ready to do it, I just called on the name of Jesus because that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else. When I said the name Jesus, this man got off of me like fire had hit him, like literally. Fire had hit his body, like he got out, just ran out, and he picked up, I'll never forget it, this round sewer piece, and this let me know that it was drugs, because he had strength that I didn't understand. Nobody could pick that up. And he was beating the car. And by that time, my daughter was already out. She had called the police, the ambulance. And before I knew it, all I could see was the lights that were coming behind me. And they had already got him, pinned him down. And I remember this lady, coming up like, ma'am, do you know you want your, I said, I want my kids with me. You know, I'm not leaving nobody behind. I'm just grateful for life. She was like, do you know what your face look like? I said, I can only imagine. But guess what? I'm still here living and breathing with knots all. I mean, it was unrecognizable. You couldn't, I didn't look like me. That's how horrible it was. But when I called on the name of Jesus, it was like fire. And he got out of the car. I to this day, I still can't explain it, but I know it was God. I know it was him. And at that point, I knew that I had purpose to still be here, to be able to face something as crazy as this, not thinking that I was going to make it, because I was saying to myself the whole time that he was beating me in my face. I'm like, Lord, this is really it. This is really it. But God had another plan.
So, that brought chills in my body. So by him being controlling, I'm trying to figure out, by him being controlling and stuff like that, he allowed you to join the military, because I was thinking you did it in secret, but he did give you room and opportunity to do it.
I did do it in secret. I did do it in secret. There are some things that I didn't relate because of time, but it was done in secret. Eventually, he did find out, and he did end up at some point going back to Germany with me before this incident happened. They kicked him off the base because he was causing problems there. The military don't play that. And I remember my first sergeant telling me, like, daughter, he said, I look at you as a daughter. This man doesn't want anything. He doesn't care about you. He's trying to destroy you. And where I see you and where you're going to go, this cannot be a part of your life. And I knew at that moment that God would always send people in my life to encourage me and remind me that you don't need this. You don't need this. I mean, to the point of they had to escort him off the base. They had to make sure he got on the airplane, because that's how crazy it was. And so, yeah, so you get back home to Birmingham, Alabama, thinking that it had changed, that you possibly trying to help him. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, you feel sorry, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure that you're protected and be mindful that they don't, it's not going to change if they themselves are not seeking help. And so I knew that day that there was purpose for me still being here, to be able to see my children and still be able to hold them and love on them, because it was horrific.
And I want to go back a little bit more, because I want you to share this, your little experience. You felt like when you was telling me about when you got enrolled into the military, and the person that was over you, you felt like it was an angel. Tell them about your angel, because the Bible says that we have angels here on earth.
Yes, we could be entertaining angels unawareingly. And when I got to Relaxing Jackson, which was Fort Jackson, that's what they call it back then, I did my basic training. There was this drill sergeant. She really amazed me, because I was like, she was so tough. She could outdo the men. You know, that's what I'm looking like, because of what I experienced. I looked at her as like, she's this woman that's so disciplined. She got herself together, but not knowing that this woman was going to be the one that motivates me. And so I was at a place where I was going to give up, and I didn't want to run. I didn't want to do it. I was just tired. This is too much. God, there has to be another way. And she came to me and she said, you got to do this for your children. You cannot go back to where you was. And I said, what? Who are you? She said, I'm here to help you, and you're going to get out of this. You're going to pass every test. If I got to run with you, and I'm telling you, every time I had to do a physical, this drill sergeant ran with me, motivated me, was like the loudest person on the sideline saying, let's go, get this. It won't be long. It won't be long. You got to get out of here so you can get them babies. She always reminded me of my purpose, of why I was there, because that was my way of exit of what I was in. And after that, I never saw her again. I tried to look for her. And I knew at that point that it was an angel that God had sent me to encourage me to get through that phase in that moment. And she also would always say, I see the leader in you. I see who you are. And there's so much more, so much greater. She also, there, I went to church. She got me to church. And I also got baptized while I was in basic training.
That's good. That's powerful. So after okay, so let's go back to where we was, because I wanted you to share that story because that was powerful. After the domestic violence dispute happened that very last time, how did your life start to transition from that day forward? What took place? What changed? What happened?
Well, first of all, the healing that took place, because that night my face was like, it was swollen knots, but the next day they were gone immediately. And I knew it was Jesus. And at that point, I started feeling this emptiness that I had never felt before. It was weird to me because I guess, and I truly believe that it was the Lord starting to change some things in my life. And so I remember my drill sergeant, not my drill sergeant, but my platoon sergeant said I had to make my way back to Germany because I had to, of course, inform them what was going on. So they wanted to make sure that me and my kids got back to Mannheim, Germany safely. And I remember when I got back to Mannheim, Germany, I didn't have a taste to drink, club anymore, or do those things that I used to do. I couldn't even sleep in my bedroom. I remember sleeping in the front area where the TV would be, where me and the kids would watch TV, and my kids, they would sleep with me, and I would be up. And it was just like, I didn't want to do anything. Like, I didn't have a taste. Like, literally, I was put on a fast without knowing I was put on a fast. Like, he was purging me of things and healing and deliverance and showing me of that the old person that I was, I'm no longer going to be. So I was spending nights of sleepless nights wondering, like, why do I feel this on the inside? It was because he was changing me from who I used to be and making me into a new person and pulling me towards closer to him. And so when my friends, they would come and say, girl, you want to go here? And I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to do this. He was taking the cravings of the world out of me, because that's what I was using to suppress what I was dealing with when I got back home, so I could be numb to my environment.
That's powerful. And you know, in the Bible, I always noticed that when God did something great or was about to elevate somebody, he gave them a name change.
Yes.
It was time for a name change.
Yes.
So it's just amazing. You guys, we're gonna do 2 parts to this video because it's so much. We're gonna do 2 parts. So Nakia, what do you say for a woman that's out there and that's like, you know, don't know how to leave? I think the first thing is, let me go back a little bit. I think the first thing is that being able to be ready to leave, because like oftentimes, like when you're really ready, and I remember you said in the interview that if that means allow him to have everything, he can have everything, you just wanted to go. But then you have some women that be like, well, I gotta have this, or I need that. When a person is really ready, would they be willing to leave everything and move forward? I mean, what is it?
You truly have to be ready to just say that this is it. I have to protect me, and especially if you have children involved, because guess what? Your children become a part of that environment. And not only does it affect you, but it affects them. And you don't want anything to come up down the line where they end up dealing with anger issues or, acting out in school. Those were things that I was preparing myself for, because I knew my children saw this horrific. They traumatized, they lived it with me. So now it was like I had to get them help, because I didn't want them to live their life having to probably deal with the demons that I came out of. And now they're connected to them, because now they're dealing and facing things that I could have been helping them with or keeping them out of. And so definitely don't be afraid to exit when the signs are there. It is what it is. You can't change an individual. And I think that's when we get to a place where, as women, we have to stop feeling like we can change people. Only God can do that. We can't. But if it is abusive, and it is, especially with words and vocal, and it's getting to the place where they look like they almost about to hit you, the time is slowly coming where that individual will end up actually starting putting their hands on you. So when God gives you a way of escape, take it. Don't look back and say, what if? What do you have to lose? You have everything to lose, but great to gain when you're in God. He will take care of you.
Okay, so let me ask you this for people that's more spiritual, okay? And for the people that's more spiritual that feels like I can pray, I can fast, gotta release them for this spirit. What do you say for those people that's praying and fasting but still dealing with domestic violence, that's more religious?
God will never tell you to pray or fast about staying in an abusive marriage. And I think that's where a lot of us, God will give us the signs, but we're dealing with it from our human standpoint, our emotions, our feelings. So our feelings and our emotions are speaking louder because in our hearts, we want this individual that we've probably been with for a long time to really get free and get delivered, but it's costing you at the expense. It's costing you going to work bruised up, or not knowing if there's infidelity, if you're going to end up with the disease, or if he even cares, or being hurt in front of the children, or if your children may end up getting hurt. You have a price to pay either way. So you can't fast about something that God has revealed. If you prayed about it, he showed you. So what are you going to do? Are you going to risk not knowing tomorrow you may not live, when you can take the opportunity now that he showed you to get out? Ask the Lord to give you strategy now on how to get out that is peaceful, so that you won't be found and you can start a fresh start and have a new life.
And see, oftentimes I have heard, women say, well, that may have kids and more than one or so, that, okay, I don't have a support system, how I'm going to make it, really like having lack of resource, having lack of faith, having lack of trust. So they allow themselves to stay in there because of lack of resources, not having family, stuff like that.
I'm left with nothing. Even though I had family, I could not go to family because he would find me. So I had to make a choice, leave with nothing and see that I could eventually replace this stuff, because that's just stuff. But what's great is my life and my children's life. So I'd rather leave at the expense of having nothing and starting all over again, and knowing that you can make it. When you make that decision, and like my grandmother used to tell me, baby, when you're tired, you're going to be tired and you're going to leave, and you're not going to come back, and you're not going to keep giving into it. I was tired. I had enough. And because it became my reality, I accepted it as if it was a part of me. And I think that's what happens. We accept it because we suppressed it so long, and it's become a reality, and it's okay. If you are a woman of God, and this is what been taught to some of us, is that pray it out, weigh it out. No, he's given you every reason biblically to leave. So take care of yourself. You don't have to go through that, whether it's man or woman. He's giving you the way of escape. This is not God. God is not the author of confusion. That's confusion. Your life is chaotic. So why stay in chaos? If you're used to dysfunction, you're going to accept dysfunction because you think it's normal. But somebody have to break the dysfunction and say, yes, I've been in this too long and I've accepted it, but no more. I've had enough.
Let me ask you a question, because I didn't ask you this. How long did you deal with it in silence? Like, after you guys got married, did you deal with it in silence? Like, did your mom, your sister, cousins, or whoever, did family know about it? Or did you?
I didn't tell anyone until it got bad. And I would end up going to my mom's house because my brothers, I was a sister because I was the only girl. So my brothers, like, if somebody's after me or trying to harm me, my brothers, they were on it. So they didn't play that. My dad was like that too. So I would always find a way to get to my mom and my dad's house because I knew I was safe there. But I got tired. He would end up finding me and make a whole scene and in their neighborhood. And so I don't want to keep including them in that. So I would be silent about it. I would go through and would be in the house, battered, bruised up, and he would be gone. And so yeah.
Okay. And I know you said that, once all this was over, God took you through a purging period or whatever, and just started stripping things off of you. How did you start to begin to heal yourself? What things did you do to start to heal yourself?
What I started to do to begin to heal myself, my my platoon sergeant connected me with a chaplain. Um, and the chaplain, him and his wife, no, the first chaplain I met, he came and talked to me and he said, I know the perfect couple for you. And I was like, okay, you can't help me. He was like, I know the perfect couple for you, but this was God's setup. It was a husband and wife, and they actually were in church. And they invited me to church, found out, what was going on, asked me, talking to me about the matter, dealing with those broken pieces. But when they invited me to the church, that was my first part of completely healing. I did try therapy, but it was the point to where that therapy was like, I felt like it wasn't giving me closure. Like it kept, I don't mind you opening those areas that need to be open, but I felt like it wasn't getting to the place of where I could actually experience healing. So I was still feeling an empty void, not knowing that it was a call for me to submit my life to Christ. So when I met that couple and I actually did go to church, that it felt like that pastor, she was talking exactly to me. And I gave my life to Christ. And through that ministry, I was healed. Those broken pieces, that emptiness started leaving, because now that void was filled, because it was the Lord showing me that it was me that you needed this whole time.
That's good. That's good. Because in order to be able to move forward to being a healthy relationship and people, we continue to skip this, is being able to self-heal.
Yes.
Self-heal is
Yes.
very important.
Yes. And to love yourself again. Loving yourself, because when you've been broken down so much, and especially if it's vocal and emotional abuse, you've been broken down so much, you feel worthless, like nobody's not going to want you. Those kids, you got too many kids or whatever the case may be, you feel like it's not possible to ever be in that place again. And so God allowed that time for me to heal. Not only that, to have a strong relationship with Christ, and to get in a word ministry where the word could heal me and talk directly to me. And I'm so grateful for that.
And it's good that you say that, because you do hear a lot of women that stay into bad relationships because they feel like, well, I have kids, nobody will want me. So they continue to repeat those cycles and go through whether it's domestic violence or just a relationship period, but they don't have to.
Right. And you are valuable. You have to understand that you are valuable. And what's the point of staying in something not knowing that you may not live tomorrow?
Right.
And so get out of it. God gives us, he gives us wisdom, and he speaks loud and clear. The signs are there. He'll never tell you to stay in something and wait it out. He will separate it before he keeps it there.
Okay, so you guys, now you have it. We're gonna do a part 2, which is gonna be next week, because the story just don't end here. Like, we want to show you guys, like, okay, yeah, she went through this, but life is still great, because we tell ourselves oftentimes, well, it's not going to get no better, it's going to be like this, and we give ourselves all the reason to stay in something bad because we feel like there's not greater on the other side. So we're going to come back in another week, and we're going to do part 2. We're going to show Nakia's going to share her story as far as how she found love. She have a great husband, how she have moved forward in her life, how God have completely transformed her life and did a completely 360, that there is still hope. Like, it just don't stop there. And I always tell ladies, like, a book have many chapters, and the book just don't end with chapter 1. It start with chapter 1, but it always get better at the end. So whatever you're facing right now is just a chapter in your life. It's not the book. There's a difference between the book and the chapter in the book. Yes. So we're gonna bring you back and allow you to share your story about your new love, how life is going, the completely new Nakia that have transformed, just to show women like there is hope. Like it, yes, like that's just like they need to know like there's hope.
Yes.
And you're a great example of hope.
Oh, thank you.
You're a great
Thank you.
example as hope of hope. Nakia, so if they want to find you on Facebook, is there anywhere on Facebook they can find you? If someone just kind of want to secretively reach out to you,
Sure, sure. You can always reach me on my personal page, which is Nakia Calhoun, and you can always message me there. And if you want prayer or just need some steps of how to exit without, you know, because when you make a decision to exit, don't think there's not going to be any noise after you exit, because there will be. Knowing though what to do, what's next, and how to go about it. So I'm on Facebook under Nakia Calhoun.
okay. So we want to thank you so much, just for coming onto our platform and just sharing your story. Like, it was just powerful. It was a lot of highlighted parts in your story. The two things that, stood out to me the most is when you call the name Jesus, because people don't realize, like, when you call the name of Jesus, like, it really do have power. And this is just a small testimony. I remember a few years ago, I was getting off the interstate from Pensacola, and my car went to flip. Wind got under and it went to flip. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, let me see if this is really true about the name of Jesus. So as my car went to flip and it lifted, and I just started calling Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Wow.
And my car, it leveled down.
Wow. Wow.
And it never hit another car. And it was like something happened, because when something like that happens, you look around and see, how cars gonna be looking at you like, oh my God, you okay?
Yes.
God had me covered, that the cars behind me didn't even see. It was like when a car had turned, it was like it turned in the right direction.
Oh, and wow.
Never got a bump, a scratch. Nothing never came out. So it really is. I'm like, oh wow, it's power in the name of Jesus. I'm like, I'm gonna start using his name all the time.
Yes, yes.
And so, like, if you get into situations, like, you better start calling on the name of Jesus.
Yes, it's powerful. I didn't realize how powerful it was until that day. And so I'm still at awe when I think about it, like, oh my goodness, the Lord was showing me then how powerful the name of Jesus is, because it was like fire had got under him and he got up out of that car so quick. I just thank God.
Well, thank you so much just for coming on and sharing your story. It's just amazing what God is doing for you right now, and you're just glowing. And it's just such a blessing, and it's just amazing to see how God can take women from their pain to purpose.
Yes.
We don't have to stay there. It's amazing.
No.
It's such an amazing thing.
And I thank you so much.
Not a problem. So you guys, we have it. Thank you guys for tuning in to High Heels and Destiny. We'll be back with part 2, and we're going to just give you guys some hope again. If you're going through something, give you hope. Things can change. You don't have to stay stuck, okay? So thank you guys for tuning in, and you guys have a great night. Thank you, Nakia, for coming on.
Thank you.